Okay, on today's episode of Burst Mode, we're going to be discussing Fuji X-T3 rumors, some Canon Mirrorless rumors, and sharing our tips on how to choose the right camera for you. All that and more right here on Burst Mode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Burst Mode. How you doing this morning, Joseph?
I'm doing good.
Good. I'm fantastic as well. So, are you ready to talk about X-T3 rumors today? Now that we've gotten past some of the Nikon stuff.
It's a big fall we got coming up for cameras.
Oh man, this year's also the year that they do Photokina in Germany. So yeah, it's literally like the year of the camera releases.
Man.
So, since we're done with the Nikon mirrorless stuff, anyone that follows me on Finding Middle Earth and my YouTube channel, a couple of days ago I announced that I sold all my Fujifilm stuff to my brother who's getting into photography. So that went over really, really great because Fuji people really accepted that well, but not at all actually. I got like death threats and all that stuff. So that was fun. Anyway, so yeah, Fujifilm might be a little bit of a sore topic to some of my viewers right now. It's all right. It doesn't matter. It's all fun. So. Yeah, the X-T3 rumors and some of the specs. You want to go over a couple, and maybe if you think they're actually true, or what you might want more out of it, or whatever. Go ahead, I'll let you take it away.
My decision this fall is going to be really big, coming down to X-T3 or Z6.
Yep.
So it's like I don't know. This is going to be tough. So it'll be interesting to see.
I know.
So what do we have rumored so far?
Yeah, all right. Let me get to the specs page. I'm all over. I'm on Canon rumors, Fuji rumors. All right, here we go. So. The lineup here on the latest rumored specs, we have a BSI sensor, so backside illuminated, so that's pretty much standard stuff now. 30 frames per second in a 1.25 crop mode. Now that's interesting because it's already a 1.5 crop camera. So there's a mode apparently where you'll crop even further into the sensor, and I guess because it's using less of the sensor, you'll get 30 frames per second. So that's interesting.
Is that RAW or JPEG?
I don't know. I would hope both. You could do both. I'm assuming that may be why they're cropping, so that it doesn't have to pick up the full sensor readout.
Yeah.
Then the next line item is 20 frames per second with the full sensor readout. And that's electronic shutter, so that's not the actual manual shutter. Then the next one says 11 frames per second with the manual shutter, the actual moving mechanism.
So what's the difference between shooting with the electronic and manual like that?
So the manual shutter is an actual moving piece that flips up and down 11 times, right? So the electronic shutter is where nothing moves. It's literally just reading off of the sensor.
So is that worse or better?
So that can be worse in certain lighting situations. So that's typically what they use during like silent shooting mode, where your camera makes no sound.
Right.
And so during certain weird lighting situations indoors, you'll get that banding effect. You know, where there's like those weird stripes across the pictures. Every time people say this photo has banding or the camera is banding, it's because some kind of funky indoor lighting situation with the electronic shutter will sometimes present those issues. So. The BSI sensor is supposed to help with that, but I don't think there's been an actual permanent fix for banding yet. So anyway, so it sounds like 11 frames per second manual shutter, or is going to be about this. Yeah, it is, and it's the same as the X-T2, which was no slouch at all. So X-T3 is rumored to still have an exposure compensation dial, which that's of course I would hope they wouldn't take away their physical dials. That's what they're known for. Let's see, a headphone jack, which is great for video. No selfie screen, so yet again we don't get the actual full tilty flippy screen. Phase detection coverage on the entire sensor for the focus points, so I guess all the focus points are phase detect. Improved face and eye detection. Now this could be good because Sony right now is kind of the leader in the whole eye detect autofocus thing. And a lot of Nikon folks and other folks were complaining about that when the Z cameras launched, was that they didn't announce anything to kind of address Sony's eye detect. So I'm curious to see that because the eye detect on the X-T2 I was really happy with in stills mode. It didn't have it on video, so I wonder if that means it's going to be on video, which would be killer.
Yeah, because I use that all the time right now in taking photos, and it's pretty smooth.
Yeah, definitely. So next one is 425 AF points, also available in AFC, so in continuous shooting mode. Improved low light autofocus, which is nice. That's always better.
That's good. I've got a little bit of issues every now and then with my X-T2. And
right. That's really good for people like you that shoot in low light auditoriums and at church events and weddings and all that stuff. Is really great. Let's see. Video specs are going to be 4K 60. If that's true, that's awesome.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Even the rumors. Well, I don't even think the Nikon has 4K 60, does it?
No, I think it's 4K 30.
I think the rumors of the Canon Mirrorless is like 4K 30
4K
too.
30, yeah,
So.
yeah. It's 4K 60 would be
Does
killer.
the XH1 have 4K 60?
That's a good question. I don't know. Since it's the video camera, I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it does. So yeah, you can do 4K slow-mo now, which is awesome.
Nice.
It will also have the zebra stripes for the highlight warnings and 10-bit, just like the Nikon Z cameras. No new film simulations, which is fine because they have tons of those. This is the one that bothers me just a little bit. It's a base ISO of 160. I don't know what their deal is with not being able to get to 100. It's a little weird because right now their base ISO on the X-T2 is 200, and everyone's been begging for 100 just to get better dynamic range out of the sensor. So I don't.
Weird. I feel like I shot at 100, or it's like
it's
called like L or something.
Right. Yes, you can go to 100, and that's not native ISO. So that's basically a digital setting. It's a post production setting that happens in the camera. It's not
so
a native.
Weird.
Yeah, it is. So it's. Yeah, I don't know what their deal is with not being able to get to 100. Hopefully, this rumor is skewed a little bit, and they'll actually surprise us and give us 100 or lower. Would be even awesome. Nice. Yeah. Let's see. And this is the kicker here. This is the Fuji X-T3 will cost less than the X-T2, so less than $1599 when it drops. That is bonkers.
Yeah, that'll be crazy, especially seeing how much it'll cost with the kit lens.
Right now.
I don't think I'll have enough money saved up for the Z6, but I'll definitely have enough saved up for the X-T3, so then I'll have a real hard decision.
And it's going to be a killer camera. And I guess another deciding factor for you is that if you get the X-T3 and just maybe like one lens or a couple lenses, you'll also have the lenses that you got through your job.
Yeah.
So you'll have a bigger lens arsenal to choose from.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be tough. But I mean, either way, the X-T3 sounds like it's going to be a killer camera. I mean, it's not full frame, so I get how it's going to be a little cheaper. But at the same time, when you're thinking about $1,500, $1,600 price range, and just a few hundred more dollars to go to a full frame now, with the Sony A7 III and then the Nikon Z6, whether you like those cameras or not, it's still you're getting a full frame for a few $100 more, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, see, that's the decision I'm going to have to make is I'm going to have to see the image quality from both the X-T3 and the Z6 and see, because I think the image quality would be great from the X-T3. The problem that really gets me is that once you've shot with full frame, getting that depth of field from like a 1.8 lens is like shooting from like a 1.4 or something like that on a mirrorless. And those lenses on the mirrorless are still going to run you a lot of money. You know, like the 56 1.2 is $1,000.
Yep.
And so the 23 1.4 is high up there, and so it's like, man, even when I'm shooting my 35 f2, it's still a great lens. You still get some really good creamy depth of field, but it's not nearly the kind of depth of field you get from a 51.8 on a full frame.
That's right.
And so it's like once you've had that, you're like, man, it's kind of hard not to go want to go back to that. And so that's the tricky thing for me is that I'm like, I love the X-T2. I love it. Great image quality. You know, low light's not really much of an issue with the technology we have now. To me, it's just getting those depth of field, and I don't know, that's going to be tough because Nikon has a ton of old G lenses that you can get for super cheap. Like, I finally sold my 24 to 120 lens, but the reason why it took longer than to sell the body was because there's so many lenses on eBay or Craigslist, only things that are already so cheap. So it's like, oh, man.
And so that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's really good when you're buying, which is great. And so basically you're gonna have this like bokeh battle that you're gonna have to choose between whether you want to go the APS-C route or full frame. And for you, it's tough because you do a lot of portraits, and that's pretty much all you do when you're getting paid is the family sessions and couples and families and all that stuff. The depth of field is so important to give it that creamy look. So it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it's rumored. I've read it's like 26 megapixel maybe.
For the
X-T3.
The X-T3, I think 20. People have been bumping back and forth between 26 and 28. But yeah, I think 26.
28 would be nice.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, it'd be awesome if they would just do a solid 30. That'd be a killer because that's
that
like
would be
middle
really
of the
great.
yeah, because that's like middle of the road now. That's 24 used to be, which is still 24 is still amazing, but 24 used to be what people were like, man, if you don't get a high res camera, 24 is like just solid. But now, you have 36 and 50 and 46 megapixels. 30 would be like a really solid middle of the road place to stop.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that'd be killer. So yeah, at the end of the day, X-T3 is going to be a killer camera either way. Some of those specs look really impressive for a camera at that price range under $1599, and we know that their lenses are still really well priced too. I mean, especially for the quality that you get. So
if it comes in at $1599 with a kit lens,
oh gosh, man, that's going to be hard.
Because they also have the way where you can get it with the kit lens, the 2.8 to 4, or also you can just get it with the 32 or the 35 f2.
Yeah.
And so if that came in at $1599, then that'd be hard to pass up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'd jump on that one.
Yeah, I think I would. I love that 35 f2. The depth of field isn't the same as the 51.8 from my Nikon G.
Yep.
But it's really good quality depth of field though, because I did a family shoot this past weekend and I got a couple of shots of their kids, and man, when it hits the perfect, like when they're from the perfect distance away.
Yeah,
and you get that really good depth of field. It looks really, really good.
Definitely. Yep. There's something about the 35 f2. Just to go off topic a little bit, because I use that lens so much. It's just like no matter what aperture, no matter where you're standing, no matter what light you're in, it's razor sharp. It is just so sharp. Yeah, I love that lens.
Yeah, their lenses are all really good. So far, I've got 35 f2. I've got their zoom, the 4.6 zoom. And then I've got the kit lens, and they're all really, really good. And that was the tricky thing with my Sony, was that my lenses were good for the Sony, but until I got that Sigma 31.4, that was the sharpest lens I've ever used for Sony. Right. And it blew all the other ones out. And I was like, well, I don't want to use any other lens now. I just want to use this lens. And so with Fuji, it's like, so far, all of their lenses have been really good. Yeah. Same thing with Nikon G lenses. They're all super sharp, too.
Yep. And that's the thing with the Fuji, too, is that what impressed so many people is that, like, when Sony dropped their E-mount system, their APS-C mirrorless, is that like first off, they were really expensive for APS-C lenses.
Super expensive.
Yeah, all Sony lenses were just so expensive. And it took some research to find a really good one. Like they weren't like the Sony kit lens that came with the A6000. I remember you saying that lens was just awful.
That's crap.
Yeah.
It had so much barrel distortion. It was like a GoPro camera when you were shooting at like the... What is it, 16 millimeter or something like
it's like a 16 to 50.
Gosh. It was like you'd have to throw it in a Lightroom and do the
GoPro lens corrections.
And it was like a whole new picture. You're like, whoa, I didn't know I took that picture.
Yep. Then I had to like crop away like 4 megapixels to stretch the photo enough.
Bad. It was so bad. It was a tiny, tiny lens. Yeah. So you could put it on there and you had a really, really small camera. Because it was like a power zoom, so it was like a 16 to 50, and it was real small. So when you turned on the camera, it got a little bit bigger. So it was great for that. But Sony's obsessed with their like small size cameras, and so I would rather them be obsessed over image quality and lenses. And so, but that Sigma 31.4 was really, I think it was rated as like one of the sharpest E-mount lenses that they had reviewed at the time.
Wow,
and it was really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely have some good glass. And now I haven't personally tried their full frame G Master glass, but I keep hearing, even people that don't like Sony, I keep hearing that stuff is awesome. So I'd love to be able to test that one day. They're just, again, they're really expensive though. But your people are willing to pay for quality, so that's
Absolutely.
Fine. All right, well, let's move on to some Canon rumors. Do you have those pulled up? You want to go over some of those for the new Canon mirrorless?
Yeah, rumors galore, man.
Yeah.
It's just rumors and rumors.
Oh, it's every day there's new rumors.
So apparently this was rumored to maybe not be coming out at Phonokita or around that, but now they said it looks like maybe there might be a September 5th announcement. So we'll have to see. But the rumored specs so far, 28 megapixel full frame, their dual pixel autofocus, in-body image stabilization, 10 frames per second, 4K at 30, 1080 at 60, and priced at $1,900.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. That's so. And then as far as the body style, I think that what would make it. Have you seen the Canon M50 that they came out with recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if they made it a little bit bigger than that and added like a man-sized grip to it, that would be a really good place to start. But then of course made it magnesium alloy, weather sealed, all that. I think that would be really killer.
That'd be a killer camera.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not some big Canon fanboy. I'm not a Canon guy at all, but I mean, that would be killer for vlogging. That would be killer for.
Oh, it would. And if it has a flip out camera or the flip out screen.
Yes.
Because none of these new cameras have that.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying when people review it and they're like, and no flip out screen. So, and I'm like, do any of them have flip out screens?
Yeah, that's right.
Just get a GH5, okay?
I know.
Everybody knows, or get the SL2, right? You have the SL2?
SL2, yeah, that's what I use for vlogging.
Camera.
Yeah.
Costs nothing.
And the M50 has the flip out. Just Canon's been this flip out screen for a long time. They have it on their 60D, 70D, 80D. Yeah, I don't know why people haven't done more of that.
People are like, no flip out screen, can't use it for vlogging. It's like, you can use it for vlogging because it's an insanely awesome camera.
Right.
You just may have to get put a screen on top of it or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's funny because here, underneath the rumors, they say, if these specs are to be believed, we're not looking at a high-end mirrorless camera. It's definitely not targeted at professionals. And I'm like, what?
That's so weird because that's what. So I can't remember his name. I want to say Tim Carter is the senior product manager for Nikon. Okay, and DP Review did an interview with him, and in some interview, don't quote me on this, I don't remember the exact words. He was specifically alluded to the fact that these Nikon Z cameras weren't quote professional cameras. They weren't targeted at the professional. They were targeted at more the enthusiast. And it's like, well, okay, I get that on the Z6. But on the Z7, I highly doubt there's going to be a ton of enthusiasts going the $3,500 route plus lenses. No. Especially for that when you look at the Sony A7R3, and again, I'm not a big Sony fan, not a Sony fanboy, but you look at the A7R3, and it's got more in it for less money than the Z7. So, it's weird that Canon and Nikon are both playing this well. It's not for professionals. It's almost like they've just been like lounging and...
Yeah, I mean, professionals use Micro Four Thirds, not a lot, but I mean, there are still professionals that use all sorts... I mean, professionals use film cameras still. I mean,
absolutely.
It's just weird to determine...
what makes a professional camera.
Yeah. Exactly. like pros shoot on all... I read an article, it was a couple months ago, this girl... She was shooting these incredible portraits. She would go to thrift stores and she would find these really, really old digital cameras. They had to shoot RAW, and I think she needed at least like 8 megapixels. But she would find these really, really old, what we would call crappy cameras, and she was taking really cool photos. Like they had this real like kind of 90s look to them,
Yeah, very cool.
But they were awesome, and she was making bank on it probably at least.
I'm sure,
She was featured in all these different websites, and so it's like these specs are insane. I mean, 4K 60 would be nice, but that's gonna bother a lot of people.
That is
4K
it'll be one of those things. Well, and so this is, if we rewind back to the Fuji thing a second, because you said the Canon is rumored to have IBIS. We forgot to mention on the X-T3, that's rumored to not have IBIS, which is going to bother a lot of people, I think. It's not going to bother me so much. I've never really needed IBIS that much. You, though, in your situation and wedding shooters, that would, I mean, that could be killer.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I've missed. My Sony, the A6000, didn't have stabilization, but it had something where when I would zoom in to the 200 millimeters and I'd go to take the photo, it would all of a sudden steady the picture a little bit, and it was easier to take photos. And the XH1 has in-body stabilization, so then there'll be a decision between like X-T3 or XH1. I know. And it's like, that's going to be tough too, because XH1 looks pretty stellar too.
Yeah. Definitely, and I'm assuming the X-T3 is going to follow suit in that new body design of the XH1 with that nice display on top of the camera and the bigger grip. That'll be nice. Because I love the size of the X-T2, but the beefier grip would have been nice. So
I like that. I think we're seeing a good trend between like thicker mirrorless cameras. Sony for a while was making this like as small as you possibly could get type of thing. Yes. And now it looks like we're moving back towards like chunky and.
That's right. They're
already smaller than a DSLR. So
yeah.
if you make them a little bit bigger, it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah, well,
it's sort of like cell phones. We started off super, super small, being cool.
Yep,
and now
that's
it's like
right.
the bigger they are, the cooler
yeah.
they are. So.
Well, and I think the industry's finally realizing now that like people are using mirrorless as a viable option for professional work. Yeah. So this biggest selling point is not that they're small anymore. Like, yeah, they're a little bit lighter weight, but if you look at, it always just cracks me up the people that are like, oh, well, I switched to mirrorless because I was able to shed half a pound, and then they have this like 400 millimeter lens on there that they've adapted from Canon, and it's like, okay, you know, it's not just the weight. Like, there's a lot of other features that are great about the mirrorless cameras. It's not just the weight that's the selling point. So camera manufacturers have realized that. They've made it a little chunkier for the pros, and we'll keep seeing those bodies evolve, I'm sure. But yeah, I think Canon could really do something great here with having a nice photo and video camera. They've always been a very video-centric company. They were, you know, huge with the 5D Mark II and their video marketing on that. So yeah, they've only gotten better from there. And I think that as long as they have really good autofocus and low light on the Canon, which they always have, but on this mirrorless camera specifically, paired with the 28 megapixels and the IBIS, and if it's a good body style, properly weather sealed, I mean, it's going to be a good camera.
And then the mount, it all depends on the mount too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, didn't even think about that. Yeah,
are they going to switch it up? And they still have the EF mount, then that'd be pretty. Pretty stellar for Canon owners.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, so right now with the Nikon Z system, a lot of people are complaining about the Z mount, and a lot of people are saying, well, that took a lot of forethought, and that's actually the biggest selling point, is that now that they have this mount, yes, it'll take years into the future to get to where they have a legendary lens lineup, but people are saying that that's at least the new technology in that is going to eventually cripple other mirrorless companies because they're already stuck into this mount that they've chosen to go with.
See, that's what really I'm excited about, that mount.
Yeah,
I big time.
Me too. I want to see what lenses they're going to come out with.
They've hyped it up and they've convinced me. I think I'm very excited about possibly getting sharper, because they talk a lot about it being sharper near the edges too.
Yeah,
and with it being able to let in a little bit more light at the same aperture settings. So
yeah, you're fully bought into these Z cameras.
Dude, I'm all in. I'm a technology optimist. I love all new stuff that comes out. I'm not even a Canon shooter, but I love the fact that Canon's going to be putting out, well, clearly not a high-end mirrorless.
Yes.
I don't know what kind of mirrorless this is, but I'll be interested to see what they have.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to switch to Canon, but I love competition, and who knows?
Yeah. Now that we're on YouTube with this podcast, by the way, there's going to be a comment that's saying, Joseph's bought by Nikon.
Dude, I wish I was bought by Nikon. I'll be honest. I'd be happy for any company to buy me out. If they're gonna give me free stuff, I'll be bought. I don't care.
Yeah, there you go. That's one way to go. I mean, you get free cameras.
Like, they bought me, guys. Free cameras.
Yeah. Full disclosure, everything's free. But I have to wear this Nikon sticker on my head all the time.
Yeah, you know, no big deal. Yeah. Just wear my Nikon hat all the time. Look, if all cameras are so awesome now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're all so good.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter what you shoot with. You're going to get some really awesome
absolutely
pictures.
Yeah, just the other day, I got a Facebook message. It was yesterday, actually, and this person said, "Hey, I found your YouTube channel, and I was just starting out in photography, and I have a Nikon D3200, I think she said. She said, is this okay for starting out? I don't know anything about cameras." And I was thinking, you know, people put so much emphasis on the camera. It's like, you know, I get it. Like, so I told her, like, yeah, the camera's great for starting out. It's great, but put emphasis on educating yourself. You know, like purchase a course or do something. Go to a workshop. That's where you need to put your time and money at first. You know, the gear will come later. I've always said that when you know why you need the new piece of camera gear, camera lens, when you can actually tell me in depth why you need to upgrade, then upgrade. But, you know, I think people this technology is exciting, and you see a new camera and you just want it. So I get that. But yeah, it's like you said, every camera is so good. You could literally just cover your eyes, add anything to your cart and order it. And whatever shows up is it's going to be a good camera.
Be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. What else do we have on the schedule for today? We're moving into some.
Speaking of the Z6 and Z7, will there even be any to get?
Man, I don't know. So he said there's going to be severe delays, And this happens every camera release, it seems like, with Nikon, literally all the time. And with the D850, I firmly believe that it was probably because of demand. So many people had pre-ordered it that they were just, up to their noses in back orders. But the Z7, I don't know. I don't know if they were just like holding off to see how it did, like how it was accepted into the market, and they didn't want to spend too much money on upfront manufacturing. I don't even know. But yeah, I don't know why they do this, because by the time they end up fulfilling back orders and getting this, Sony's going to be on their A7S III and probably their like A12000, because Sony releases cameras every 5 minutes.
Yeah. But they won't have any new lenses.
Yeah, no new lenses. And then Canon will have their new camera out, and they'll finally be using 4K. And then Nikon will be like, oh, well, might as well just go ahead and roll out the Z8 because the Z7 was never produced. Yeah, I don't know why they do this. It's going to be interesting.
My guess would be, if I'm thinking sort of how Apple works, when they have a whole new body design for a phone, that's the first time they're manufacturing all those new parts.
Yeah.
And so they don't have as many of them. But like the iPhone 8, that's the same body design as all the ones before it. They could dish out like millions of them on launch day because they've already been manufacturing them for a long time.
That's right.
So I'm guessing with Nikon, they probably didn't know how many to purchase.
Yeah.
And they probably take longer for them to manufacture. I'm just giving the benefit of the doubt and say that new body, new parts, new manufacturing, they just don't know.
Yeah. And that could very well be true. And I mean, that would make sense. So yeah, but it sucks
Hopefully.
that they haven't learned yet, because they always do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. So moving on from that, I guess we'll wrap this up on a topic of kind of our best tips on how to choose the best camera for you, because it's a good time to talk about that, because there's so many cameras coming out.
I know, that's why I put that topic there, because I was like, gosh, how do you even choose? Because I'll have to be choosing pretty soon.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things coming out, so it's like, how do you even choose a camera now?
It's a perfect topic. So number one, I guess, is if you're already invested in a company's glass and you have tons of lenses, it's kind of obvious to at least stick with that brand. It's tough to do a whole wipeout, if you have 15 lenses from one of the companies, because I know a lot of people that have, like, I've talked to 2 or 3 people that have sold like 15, 20 Canon lenses to go to Sony or something. And it's like, man, how much money did they have to lose, to make that move? Was it really that worth it?
It'd take a while to sell those lenses too.
Yeah. But I don't know, I guess I would say that when you're looking at a new camera, this is what I do. I always write down like a list of what I need, just like some features that I absolutely have to have. And then I kind of, bracket myself off into a budget, and that gives me an idea. So, how many of these features can I get in this price range? And that'll bring me to at least some camera models. And then if I have a certain brand that I want to stick with, that'll, pinpoint it even more. What do you do when you just start, hey, I want a new camera? Where do you start?
I go with what I think looks awesome.
You're such a hipster.
I do. I judge a book by the cover. I totally do. I read a lot of books, and I will totally judge a book by its cover.
Okay.
But yeah, I think, because if you get something that you think feels really cool, looks really cool, and like gets you really excited, you're gonna take more photos with it.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of like with the D800. I loved it, but I really loved the Fuji.
Yeah.
And so like once I got the Fuji for work, my D800 was collecting dust over in the corner, because I was like, I just loved going out with this Fuji and all the knobs and dials, and had it look like film camera, and I just loved that, because I am a hipster.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do need to look, because even though all cameras are awesome, if you're doing something very specific like low light or sports or landscapes, then there are certain requirements that you do need for those.
Yeah.
Definitely. Landscapes, you probably want more megapixels. Sports, you want higher frame rate. And low light, you want something that's a lot better at that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the same thing. Write down the features that you need, and then once you've got the features, just find the camera that you think looks awesome.
Yeah,
I think that works.
Yeah, I mean, aesthetics really are important. I mean, if you're not having fun shooting with the camera, I mean, that really does play a big part. Even though it sounds weird, it's true. Like when I got the X-T2, I texted you all the time, and I was like, man, there's just something about this. Like, I just love this camera. And then you did the same thing. You would text me randomly in the middle of the day and be like, dude, I love this camera. And it's just that feel awesome. And the look. It's a very nostalgic feeling. It's very cool.
Yeah, that's why I've looked at a lot of micro Four Thirds cameras, because they have these really cool bodies too. They all like the Olympus EM10s, and You know, the Pen F, they all look really, really cool.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Pen F. I wonder what the price on that is now. I remember when that came out, that was pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, admit it, if they came out with like an ugly Nikon Z8 and it was packed with features, but they came out with like a sexy looking Canon Rebel, you would go with the Canon Rebel.
Oh man, that's a tough question.
Of course it is for you.
If the Canon Rebel looked like a Fuji X-T3, then yeah, I might.
Of course you would.
At least consider that, you know, because now it's like almost any flagship camera is going to have almost all the features for the most part.
Yeah.
They all are shooting like 8 frames per second or above for the most part. They all have a pretty good amount of megapixels. They all shoot pretty good video. So it's like like I remember when I was watching some review, I think it was Tony Chelsea or something like that, and they were doing like the frames per second, seeing how many were in focus or not. And like, I'm never shooting photos of people walking in a straight line towards me and I need to have 100% of them in focus. Yeah. That's just not something I'm doing. When I shoot families, and I'll also have some kids running around, for the most part, I can get all of them in focus. It's not that hard, really.
Yeah. That's where it separates the techie from the photographer. Like, I think Tony is a really cool guy. I think he is genuine for the most part, and I think that he just loves technology. I think he said he used to work for, I can't remember if it was IBM or HP or something, or Microsoft, maybe is what it was. He used to have like some corporate job in the technology industry. That's so funny. And he has a Tesla. Okay, so he just loves he just loves technology. So I think he's just a big techie geek, and sometimes that can get the best of him in focusing so much on the little settings. And
we can do that too, because there is a sense where it's like you have people like Blair Bunting. Did you see he had an article in Fuji Rumors?
Really? No, I haven't seen that.
Fuji or Nikon? It was either one of those.
Okay.
I don't know, one of those.
I know he shoots Nikon. So I don't, but he might shoot Fuji as well.
Hasselblad now.
Well, yeah, his studio stuff is all medium format, of course.
Yeah, and so he wrote this thing. It was an article. It was a good article, but it was like, let's end the mirrorless wars. Like, let's not argue over who's better, who's this, or who's that, or who's not. You know, and it's like, I like Blair Bunting, but it's like, dude, you're shooting with like a $40,000 camera or something like that. It's like, there are people who have a very smaller amount of money, and we kind of want to get the most bang for our buck. Yeah. You know, and so it's like, that's why sometimes we'll obsess over features, over like no in-body stabilization or not 4K 60, because it's like, we can't just, grab a new camera because we don't have the money to just be like, you know what, let me just go ahead and get this new GFX or, something like that. So
that's right.
But we definitely don't want to focus on too much on all the specs and things like that, because they're all awesome.
Yes, that's right. And that's the hardest part about being on YouTube, is that I'll post a video, a camera review or anything, and I'll talk like this, but then no matter what, you will never ever please YouTube commenters. They're like when I posted that video a couple of days ago, when I had said, hey, look, like I'm getting rid of the Fuji stuff. Like, it was more of a business decision. It was just sitting there in a camera bag. And my brother's getting into photography. He wanted it. It's a great kit for him. Of course, there was the people that were like, I only came to your channel for Fujifilm. See ya. It's like, okay.
Peace out.
Okay, yeah. It's like, okay, well, glad you don't want to learn about just photography. It was just like one camera. Yeah, and it's just over and over. And then, of course, the Nikon Z cameras, there's the people that write these paragraph-long comments, like, talking about the actual, like, inner works of the processing engine. And I'm like, dude, just go buy a camera, go outside, and actually, take a photo, Yeah. Man.
Yeah, it's because, again, every time I start to obsess over features like that, I just look at some of the photos that I can get from my iPhone. And I'm like, dude, this sensor is like teeny, 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 tiny.
Yep.
And people are producing incredible photos from that. So it's like, I kind of calm down. I'm like, I'll be happy with whichever one I get.
Yeah.
And so then I'll just focus on, which one's the most affordable for me, and which one feels cool when I'm holding it.
Yeah, we need to do a video soon on the Burst Mode Podcast YouTube channel, where me and you go out with we'll go out with the Fuji or maybe the Nikon and the iPhone, and we'll put the iPhone on a tripod. We'll use one of our favorite apps, and we'll do like a side-by-side photo of the same scene, and maybe we order like a, 8x10, 11x14 print. Let's just see. I want to see what is, can you really be like, oh yeah, that's the iPhone. Like, I'd love to know after post-production.
And we're not saying that iPhones can replace DSLRs.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a big controversy on the line. They're like, no, iPhone's crap. You can't blah, blah, blah. And we're not saying it can replace a DSLR. We know it can't.
Yes.
It's just a reminder that sometimes composition and framing, all that stuff, that makes a big part of whether your photo looks
dude,
good
you didn't
or
know
not.
that portrait mode and studio mode was going to replace every. I mean, that's in the next 2 years. Everyone's going to have iPhones in the studio.
More DSLRs.
No, that's the whole mirrorless versus DSLR is just there's just no point. It's all going to be iPhone versus everything.
Yep.
Yeah, iPhone's going to take over the market. Like, absolutely.
But that's one reason why I like Kai's reviews, especially back to Digital Rev, but even now, he just sort of walks around and takes photos and just sort of, it's a little bit more casual. It's not like obsessing over every little feature, you know, and that's why I just sort of like his the best. He just sort of is like, I really like this camera, you know, and it just seems more like how I would probably rate a camera.
Yeah, it's easier to jump in like his shoes and see the review that way, because most people would just sit like behind a desk and hold up a piece of paper with the specs, and I've done that before too, but I always like to show a lot of images, because at least like I've been out shooting with it, and I like how he switches it up too. Like he'll do like some street work, and then he'll go to like top of a mountain and do some landscape photos. And I like that he does that too. I think that every it is it's a good mix. But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, for picking a new camera. By the way, just to pause a second, I noticed something, and I like it about this podcast, that we'll start on a topic and then we will go off on this unbelievable rant about something, and it is awesome.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, back to the tips for cameras. Like you said, there's really, I mean, write down your features, look at budget, look at aesthetics. I would definitely say go and like try to hold and like touch the camera before you buy it, if you can go into some kind of retail store, because that is important.
Pretty much the whole reason why Best Buy exists.
Yeah, that's right. That's the only
reason to try things out and then go home to Amazon and buy it.
That's the only reason I go to Best Buy. I just go in to see if they have it so I can pick it up and be like, yeah, that camera feels great. All right,
cool.
Time to go online.
B&H, let's go.
That's right. Time to go online and order it with no sales tax from B&H. Yep. All right. Well, cool. Do you have any final thoughts, Joseph?
No, my computer's at 2%.
Well, perfect timing then. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching episode 3 of the Burst Mode Podcast. You can find us on iTunes and on YouTube at Burst Mode Podcast. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.